Recognized 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you and the ranking member for the dinner that we had together to engender a degree of civility and friendship. And I want to assure the people who are looking at home that we really did have the dinner. Let me start by saying to you that I did not come prepared to defend FHA today, but I feel compelled to do so. FHA did not create the housing crisis. Some things bear repeating. FHA did not, N-O-T, create the housing crisis. It started in the 1980s with these so-called exotic products. And I'm sure you remember some of them, but for fear that some do not, let me express to you what some of them were. Teaser rates that coincided with prepayment penalties. FHA didn't create teaser rates that coincide with prepayment penalties, such that you're locked into a loan and you can't get out unless you pay some large amount of money. Qualifying buyers for teaser rates, but not qualifying buyers for the adjusted rate. FHA didn't create that product. By the way, Dodd-Frank addresses these products. Balloon mortgages. One big payment at the end of some period of time after having maybe an interest-only payment. Option arms. Underpay and we'll tack what you don't pay onto the principal. No-doc loans. Rating agencies that, at least one of which is now being prosecuted, rating agencies that were literally giving those who desired an evaluation what they wanted. Credit default swaps in the tertiary market so that you could kind of gamble together with the taxpayers' money, in a sense. Originators of loans not having to be responsible for the default. Now, probably more than anything else, this was the gravamen of the problem. When we allowed the originator to care less about whether or not there'd be a default, just qualify the person as a home buyer rather than a home owner, and send that on to the secondary and tertiary market. Somebody else will worry about the default. This is what it was all about. Let's not kid ourselves and try to blame the CRA and FHA for what happened started in the 80s and ended up with the crisis that we had to give some attention to. FHA does insure, does not lend a penny, by the way, but does insure some loans that some would consider high-dollar loans. But would it surprise you to know that in October, the average loan amount for FHA was around $180,000, $183,000, less than $200,000? Would it surprise you to know that the entire portfolio of FHA has loans that average around $150,000? FHA is not a culprit. So let me just ask one question, and I will probably then yield some time so that others can be heard. But my one question is to the entire panel. Who among you would end FHA, would end it rather than mend it? Which of you would end it? I ask that you acknowledge that you would, if this is your position, by kindly raising your hand. Kindly raise your hand. Now, Mr. Pinto, I don't see your hand going up, so I'm going to assume that you would not end FHA. Would you? This will require, unfortunately, because time is of the essence, a yes or no answer, and perhaps we'll get into...
I answered the question earlier, not yes or no. I'm sorry, just not a yes or no.
Not a yes or no. Then I will conclude, if I may, and you can have someone else help you with this if you'd like, but I'm going to conclude that under certain circumstances you would. And that's all I can conclude. Is there anyone else who would end FHA? All right, let me close with this, dear friends. I came to Congress to represent everybody in this country. And in so doing, I understand that there are a good many people who cannot go back to the 30s when you had 3 to 5 year loans, when you had huge balloon payments, when the interest rates were exceedingly high. FHA has provided middle-income persons with an opportunity to engage in home ownership. We have to mend it. There may be some problems. But we didn't end the big banks. We gave them a second life. I'm going to fight to keep FHA.